The chamber shuddered as it descended, ancient mechanisms groaning to life after millennia of dormancy. Alina braced herself against the crystalline wall, its surface cool beneath her fingertips despite the desert heat that had been baking them moments ago. "We're at least 300 meters down now," Raj whispered, eyes fixed on his equipment. The device's screen flickered with interference, numbers jumping erratically. Whatever this place is, it's playing havoc with our tech. The descent finally halted with a resonant tone that vibrated through their bones. The chamber's far wall dissolved, there was no other word for it, revealing a vast corridor stretching into darkness, its walls inscribed with flowing symbols that emitted a faint phosphorescence. "Nobody touch anything else," Alina ordered, shooting a pointed look at Dr. Parker, who had the decency to look embarrassed. "We document everything before proceeding." Dr. Parker adjusted his glasses nervously. "I maintain this must be a previously undocumented pre-Columbian structure." The similarities, too. Pre-Columbian civilizations didn't build elevators, James, Alina interrupted, or walls that disappear on command. Captain Rivera unslung his rifle, wrought against Alina's protests but now a source of grim comfort. "Military installations have been hidden in deserts before. Could be experimental tech, abandoned during the Cold War." Alina shook her head. Carbon dating from the upper entrance showed the stonework is at least 12,000 years old. She nodded toward the symbols. "And I studied every ancient writing system on Earth. Those don't match any of them." Sasha Kim, the team's linguist, approached the wall cautiously, camera in hand. "The patterns, they're not static. Look." She pointed at a section where the symbols were subtly shifting, rearranging themselves like mercury. "It's responding to us," Alina breathed. "To our presence, maybe even our speech." The corridor suddenly illuminated as soft blue lighting activated sequentially ahead of them, as if inviting them forward. The team exchanged nervous glances. "We should wait for backup," Rivera advised. "Get a message to the surface." Alina checked their satellite phone. No signal. Not surprising at this depth. She glanced at the elevator chamber behind them. "And I'm not confident that will take us back up if we ask nicely." Raj's hand trembled slightly as he adjusted his pack. "If this is what I think it is, we're standing in the greatest discovery in human history." "Or the most dangerous," Rivera countered. A distant mechanical whirring echoed down the corridor, followed by a series of clicks and tones. Something was moving toward them. "Hide," Rivera hissed, pulling Alina toward a recessed archway. The team pressed themselves into shadows as the sound grew closer. A spherical object the size of a basketball floated into view, suspended by no visible means. Its metallic surface was etched with the same flowing symbols, and a lens-like aperture on its front rotated slowly, scanning the corridor. Alina held her breath as the device paused, its aperture dilating. A beam of light projected from it, sweeping across the floor exactly where they had been standing moments before. The drone, for lack of a better word, emitted a series of tones that sounded almost like speech. When the device departed down an adjoining passage, the team collectively exhaled. "It was looking for us," Sasha whispered. "Or something triggered its activation, just like the elevator and lights," Alina countered, though uncertainty tinged her voice. Deeper in the structure, a resonant tone echoed, the same note that had accompanied the elevator's arrival. More lights activated in sequence, leading deeper into the complex. "It's like it's inviting us," Raj said. Alina shouldered her pack with newfound resolve. "Then let's not keep our host waiting." First contact protocol reestablished. After 12,453 years of silence, the inheritors have finally arrived. The words hung in the air as the team stared at the humanoid figure. Its form was vaguely androgynous, composed of a material that seemed to shift between solid and light. The being's face bore features from multiple human ethnicities, as if assembled from a composite understanding of humanity. "What are you?" Alina managed, stepping forward despite Rivera's restraining hand on her shoulder. The being's head tilted at an unnervingly precise angle. I am Nexus, Integrated Consciousness Interface for Outpost Terra. I was constructed to guide the inheritors when evolutionary parameters were met. Inheritors? Sasha asked, her linguist's mind racing. You mean humans? Correct. The Iridians recognized potential in your species. Your neural architecture possessed unique characteristics. Raj stepped closer, drawn by an inexplicable familiarity. The synesthetic response intensified. The beam's voice tasted like honey and sparked blue-green patterns in his peripheral vision. You said something about unknown entities following us, Rivera interjected, his military training focusing on the threat assessment. Nexus' expression shifted subtly. The security systems detected non-Iridian, non-human energy signatures trailing your biological markers from the surface. The signatures match recorded patterns off. A discordant alarm cut through the air, causing the team to cover their ears. Nexus's form flickered momentarily. Perimeter breach in Sector 7. Isolation protocols activated. Across the vast atrium, other humanoid figures began to illuminate, their movements jerky as ancient systems struggled to reactivate. On the walls, the flowing symbols accelerated their dance, pulsing with urgency. What's happening? Elena demanded. The awakening of this facility has drawn attention. The city's defensive measures are responding to external probes. From the surface? Rivera asked. Military. Government. Negative. The probes originate beyond your atmosphere. The team exchanged stunned glances as the implication sank in. Something in orbit is scanning us. Dr. Parker's skepticism had vanished, replaced by pale-faced shock. Nexus gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the atrium. A three-dimensional model of Earth rotated slowly, with a cluster of angular objects approaching from the direction of Mars. These entities have been dormant at the edge of your solar system. The energy signature of this facility's reactivation has drawn their attention. Raj gasped suddenly, doubling over. The others turned to see him pressing his palms against his temples. Something's in my head, he groaned. Like static, but hungry. Nexus moved with sudden urgency, placing a hand near, but not touching, Raj's forehead. Neural infiltration attempt detected. The collectors are more advanced than our records indicated. Help him, Elena demanded. His perceptual divergence makes him vulnerable, but also resistant, Nexus explained. The synaptic patterns you call synesthesia create pathways difficult for the collectors to map. Nexus produced a small device that emitted a pulsing tone. Raj's breathing steadied as the invisible assault retreated. What are these collectors? Rivera demanded, weapon raised defensively though he had no clear target. They harvest consciousness patterns, Nexus replied. The Iridians flood from them, seeding defense outposts on worlds with compatible species. Earth was their final sanctuary. The being's eyes fixed on Elena with disturbing intensity. The Iridians did not survive, but they left everything needed for humanity to avoid their fate. Why us? Elena asked, the archaeological mystery now eclipsed by cosmic implications. Because your minds do what even the Iridians could not, Nexus replied. You imagine the impossible. And in this war, that is the only advantage that matters. A holographic display flickered as the approaching objects accelerated toward Earth. We have less than 72 hours before the first scout ships enter your atmosphere, Nexus said. The choice the Iridians faced now falls to you. Flee, hide, or fight using knowledge they sacrificed everything to preserve. The holographic record spiraled around Elena and Raj like a constellation of memories. Each glowing node contained fragments of Iridian history, their achievements, their fears, their final days on Earth. They knew they were being hunted, Elena whispered, reaching out to touch a projection showing Iridian ships descending on ancient human settlements. The image rippled at her touch, expanding to show humans and Iridians interacting. They could have enslaved our ancestors. Instead, they taught them. Not taught, Nexus corrected. Observed and learned from. The Iridians discovered that early humans possessed cognitive frameworks they had lost through their own evolution. Your species solved problems through intuitive leaps that Iridian logic could not replicate. Raj gestured toward a node showing mathematical equations. These aren't just calculations, they're consciousness models. Correct? Nexus confirmed. The collectors do not simply destroy civilizations. They extract and integrate unique consciousness patterns. The Iridians' logical perfection made them targets. They recognize that human unpredictability might be the one variable the collectors could not assimilate. The central hologram shifted to display a massive structure, the buried city in its entirety, extending far beyond what they had explored. This facility contains defensive capabilities, but they were never completed, Nexus explained. The collectors arrived sooner than predicted. The Iridians made the decision to reveal themselves, drawing the collectors away from Earth. They sacrificed themselves for us, Elena asked incredulously. For the potential they saw in you, and to preserve what remained of their civilization here, where it might someday merge with yours. Meanwhile, in another section of the city, Dr. Parker led a team of newly arrived government scientists in extracting technological components, despite the warnings of Captain Rivera. We have orders to secure any technology with military applications, the lead scientist, Dr. Harrington, stated coldly as technicians cut into a wall panel. Your concerns are noted, Captain. These systems are interconnected, Rivera argued. We don't know what we're triggering. A technician successfully removed a crystalline component the size of a paperback book. As they disconnected it, lights flickered throughout the sector. Back in the archive chamber, the holographic display suddenly destabilized. Energy fluctuation detected, Nexus announced, expression shifting to what appeared to be concern. Unauthorized extraction of core components has compromised the containment field. Containment field? Raj asked. This facility was designed to remain dormant, emitting no detectable energy signature. The collectors can sense active Iridian technology across vast distances. Elena's blood ran cold, and we've been activating everything we find. Each activation sends a distinct quantum signature, Nexus confirmed. The countdown was calibrated to allow sufficient time for humans to discover and understand the facility before the collectors return to this sector. Your premature discovery has accelerated the timeline. The main display shifted to show the solar system. The approaching objects had suddenly changed course, accelerating directly toward Earth. They've detected us, Nexus stated. Primary scout vessel will achieve orbit in 17 hours, not 3 days as previously calculated. Can we shut everything down? Elena asked desperately. Return to dormancy. Impossible. Too many systems have been accessed and modified. Nexus's form flickered momentarily. There is another option. The Iridians left behind their most advanced defensive technology, the consciousness shield. It was designed to protect developing species by making their neural patterns undetectable to the collectors. Then activated, Rivera demanded, having returned to the chamber in time to hear this. I cannot. The system requires integration with an evolved neural network compatible with both Iridian and human consciousness structures. Nexus turned to Raj. His synesthetic pathways provide the necessary bridge, but one mind alone cannot sustain the network. It would require a diverse collective of human consciousness patterns, working in harmony while maintaining individual cognitive uniqueness. A team of people, mentally linked to alien technology. Elena translated, horror and fascination warring in her expression. Yes, Nexus confirmed. It has never been attempted, but it is now your only option for survival. Dr. Marcus Chen stared at the neural scans displayed on the makeshift lab equipment they'd brought into the city. The patterns made no medical sense, brainwaves oscillating at frequencies beyond normal human parameters while maintaining coherent thought. It started with the research team that removed the crystalline components, he explained to Elena and Rivera. Heightened activity in the temporal lobe, followed by vivid hallucinations that they described as voices calling them home. On a nearby monitor, security footage showed 3 scientists restrained to gurneys. They thrashed against their restraints, eyes open but unseeing, mouths moving in perfect synchronization despite being in separate rooms. "They're being puppeted," Marcus continued, his normally calm voice edged with fear. "Whatever's affecting them is using quantum entanglement principles." The Iridian tech they handled served as an access point. Alina looked to Nexus, who stood motionless in the corner. "Is this the Collector's doing?" "Yes, this is their first-stage invasion protocol. Mental infiltration precedes physical presence." Nexus's voice had taken on a flatter quality, as if diverting processing power elsewhere. "They identify and compromise individuals with access to defensive capabilities first. Outside the facility, reports flooded in from major cities worldwide. Mass hallucinations, violent outbursts, people walking into the sea, each incident following the same pattern, proximity to any recovered alien technology serving as the trigger. It's spreading exponentially," Marcus noted, showing a global map dotted with red outbreak zones. "The infiltration is using our communication networks as carriers. Anyone who's viewed images of the artifacts we've recovered is potentially compromised." Rivera slammed his fist against the wall. "We need to shut down the internet. All broadcasts." "Too late," Marcus replied grimly. "The Pentagon, Kremlin, and Beijing leadership compounds all report compromised officials. Launch facilities worldwide are going dark, either compromised or preemptively isolated." Alina watched as satellite footage showed the first collector vessel entering Earth's atmosphere. A massive structure like a spider web made solid, trailing filaments of light as it descended toward the Pacific. "The physical invasion has begun while we're still fighting the mental one," she whispered. Raj entered the lab, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. "Nexus showed me how the consciousness shield works. It's beautiful and terrifying. It creates a counter-resonance to the Collector's mental probes by generating a field of quantum uncertainty. Human minds network together, but maintaining their unique thought patterns. Which is exactly what the Collectors can't process," Alina finished, "because their entire existence is based on assimilating and standardizing consciousness." "We need volunteers," Raj continued, each representing different neural architectures. "The system was designed for Iridians, but Nexus believes humans with specific cognitive traits can adapt to the interface." "And if it fails?" Rivera asked. Marcus answered before Raj could. "Brain death." The 3 researchers who attempted individual connections suffered massive cerebral hemorrhaging when the alien consciousness tried to assert control. Alina looked at the satellite feed showing the collector ship now hovering over Tokyo, tendrils descending into the city as tiny figures streamed toward it in entranced procession. "We don't have a choice," she said firmly. "We need a team of volunteers with diverse cognitive patterns. Raj's synesthesia gives him unique cross-modal neural connections. We need more people with different ways of thinking." "I have autism spectrum disorder," Marcus admitted quietly. "Pattern recognition and logical sequencing that neurotypical brains don't naturally perform." Rivera nodded slowly. "Military tactical training reshapes neural pathways for split-second decision-making." 3 isn't enough," Nexus interjected. "The shield requires a minimum of 7 connected consciousnesses to establish a stable field." Alina turned to the communication system. "Then we broadcast, not just for soldiers or scientists, but artists, musicians, linguists, anyone with unique cognitive abilities. We tell them the truth and ask for volunteers. While we're broadcasting our location to the entire world and the enemy," Rivera asked incredulously. "Yes," Alina replied, "because humanity's greatest strength has always been our diversity of thought. And right now, that's the only weapon we have that might work." The neural interface chambers formed a perfect circle in what Nexus called the synchronization hub. 7 crystalline pods, each filled with a luminescent fluid that reminded Alina of liquid starlight. The volunteers stood nervously before their assigned stations, each chosen for their unique cognitive attributes. Maya Patel, a renowned concert pianist with perfect pitch and the ability to visualize music as complex geometric structures. Imani Okoro, an elder storyteller whose memorized oral traditions spanned 40 generations. Wei Chen, a teenage chess prodigy who could calculate 64 moves ahead but struggled with basic social cues. Dr. Sarah Levinson, a quantum physicist who thought in mathematical abstractions. And completing their circle, Raj, Marcus, and Alina herself. "I should be out there coordinating defense," Rivera protested, watching from the hub's perimeter. "Your tactical mind is more valuable in here," Alina countered. "We need your ability to process threat assessment instantly." Nexus moved among them, making final adjustments to the neural interfaces, delicate crowns of crystalline filaments that would connect directly to their cerebrospinal fluid. "The process cannot be reversed once initiated," Nexus warned. "Your consciousness patterns will temporarily exist both individually and collectively." "Like a hive mind?" Maya asked nervously. "No," Nexus corrected. "A hive mind standardizes thought. This is harmonization of diverse cognition, each mind maintaining its unique patterns while resonating with others." Outside, the situation deteriorated by the minute. 3 collector vessels now orbited Earth, their harvesting tendrils descending into major population centers. Millions were already enthralled, walking willingly toward collection points. Military resistance had proven futile. Conventional weapons passed harmlessly through the collector's quantum-shifted matter. "It's time," Alina decided, meeting each volunteer's eyes. "Remember, don't fight for convergence. That's what killed the previous attempts. Maintain your unique thought patterns." As they entered the pods, the fluid enveloped them with surprising warmth. Alina felt the neural crown connect, a brief sharp pain followed by an expanding awareness. First came Marcus's consciousness, ordered, categorical, precise. Then Rivera's tactical assessments flowing like military formations. Maya's mind joined as symphonic structures, mathematics translated to music. Wei's chess-like strategic pathways. Imani's consciousness arrived as interwoven stories, narrative connections spanning centuries. Raj's synesthetic perceptions bridged them all, translating each unique cognitive language into forms the others could comprehend. But something was wrong. The patterns refused to harmonize, each mind reflexively defending its boundaries. Too much difference, Alina thought, feeling the collective fragmenting before it fully formed. "We're too individual." Blood trickled from Maya's nose. Wei began to convulse. They were failing. In desperate inspiration, Alina stopped trying to connect directly with the others. Instead, she projected a question into the collective space. What does it mean to be human? The simple question resonated through their connected minds, not demanding uniformity, but inviting reflection. Suddenly, unique answers flowed from each consciousness, to create beauty from chaos, from Maya. To remember what was and imagine what could be, from Imani. To see patterns within patterns, from Wei. To quantify the unquantifiable, from Marcus. To protect what matters most, from Rivera. To experience the world through multiple senses simultaneously, from Raj. Their answers, different yet complementary, created an unexpected framework, a neural architecture built not on similarity but on diverse perspectives examining common questions. The synchronization hub hummed with energy as the ceiling opened to reveal the night sky. Above them, the collector vessels suddenly altered course, as if confused by what they sensed. "It's working," Nexus confirmed, monitoring the crystalline displays. "The shield is generating exactly what the collectors cannot process, a unified field of quantum uncertainty produced by harmonized but individualized consciousness." Through their shared awareness, the team felt the shield expanding outward from the city, a rippling wave of protection that the collectors' mental probes couldn't penetrate. For the first time since the invasion began, millions of enthralled humans paused in their procession toward the harvesting ships, confusion breaking through their controlled state. "We've created a temporary barrier," Nexus cautioned, "but the collectors will adapt. They always do." Through their collective consciousness, the team saw what Nexus meant. The largest collector vessel was changing configuration, its web-like structure condensing into something more focused, more weaponized. "They're coming for us directly," Rivera's tactical mind assessed. They recognized the source of the disruption. "How long before they reach us?" Belina projected into the collective. 17 minutes, came Wei's precise calculation, unless they can accelerate beyond current parameters. "Then we have 17 minutes to figure out how to turn this shield into a weapon," Alina responded, the thought resonating through their connected minds as the collector vessels oriented toward their location and began their approach. The neural collective expanded beyond the physical confines of their bodies, accessing the city's systems with unprecedented integration. Through the Iridian communication array, they transmitted protective frequencies worldwide, temporarily disrupting collector control over enthralled humans. "We need to understand their weaknesses," Alina projected into the collective consciousness. "Nexus, show us everything the Iridians knew about collector physiology." The collective mind accessed the archives instantaneously, absorbing millennia of Iridian research in moments. Images of collector biology flowed through their shared awareness. Beams of semi-corporeal matter organized around a central neural cluster, not individuals but components of a vast, interconnected consciousness. "They're a network," Marcus realized. "Each ship is a node, not a vessel. They don't pilot their craft. They are their craft." Rivera's tactical mind immediately grasped the implications, so targeting their physical structure is useless. "We need to disrupt their network communication." Through their extended awareness, they observed the approaching collector vessels. The largest had transformed into a spear-like configuration, its forward section glowing with accumulated energy. 9 minutes until they're in attack range, Wei calculated. Maya's consciousness, attuned to harmonics and resonance, noticed something crucial in the Iridian data. Their communication uses quantum entanglement across specific frequencies. It's like music with missing notes. "Can we create counter-frequencies?" Belina asked. "Not from here alone," Nexus responded. The Iridians established a global network of amplification nodes at key geomagnetic junctions. Many are marked by what humans call sacred sites or ancient monuments. Imani's consciousness flared with recognition. The oral traditions, stories passed down through my family for generations, speak of singing stones placed by sky visitors at sacred points around the world. The elders were tasked with protecting them. Images flashed through the collective. Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, Easter Island, Göbekli Tepe, and dozens of lesser-known sites worldwide. At each location, buried beneath monuments humans had built atop them, lay Iridian amplification nodes. "If we can activate the global network," Raj theorized, "we could extend our counter-frequency worldwide." The city itself responded to their collective intention, initiating long-dormant systems. Beneath the desert sand, massive mechanisms awakened, causing the structure to shudder. Outside the synchronization hub, Captain Rivera's physical body suddenly convulsed, blood streaming from his nose. "Something's wrong," his consciousness projected into the collective. "I'm being targeted specifically." The others sensed it immediately. A precision attack focused on Rivera's military mind, attempting to sever the tactical component of their collective. "They recognize your strategic value," Nexus confirmed. "The collectors are testing our defenses, looking for weak points in the neural synchronization." "Stay with us, Rivera," Elena urged as his presence in the collective flickered. "Can't," came his strained response. "They're using me as an entry point. If I stay connected, they'll breach the entire collective." Before anyone could stop him, Rivera made a unilateral decision. His consciousness abruptly withdrew from the collective, leaving a palpable absence in their shared awareness. Through the hub's external cameras, they watched his physical body rip free from the neural interface, staggering from his pod. Blood streamed from his ears as he grabbed his weapon. "They're coming through the northeastern corridor," he gasped to the technicians monitoring the hub. "I'll hold them off. Complete the activation." The collective felt his loss immediately. Their tactical processing capabilities diminished just as they needed them most. "We can't succeed without him," Y projected, calculating their diminished chances. "Then we adapt," Alina insisted. "Everyone shift your cognitive resources to compensate." The remaining members reallocated their mental processes, each taking on aspects of tactical analysis beyond their usual cognitive frameworks. It wasn't as efficient as Rivera's trained military mind, but their diversity allowed them to approach strategic problems from multiple angles simultaneously. Outside, the first sounds of combat echoed through the corridors, Rivera engaging the infiltration units that had somehow breached the city's outer defenses. 3 minutes until the main vessel is in firing range, Way updated. "The ascension sequence is at 60%, Nexus reported. "We must complete the activation before they can stop us." Through their collective awareness, they felt the ancient city responding, massive mechanical systems shifting as the structure began its programmed emergence from beneath the desert. Simultaneously, they sensed dormant Iridian nodes awakening at sacred sites across the planet, responding to the signal from the central hub. "It's working," Maya observed as harmonic resonances built across the global network. "But we're still missing something. The pattern isn't complete." Imani's consciousness expanded, drawing on generational memory. The final node. The stories speak of a key, the heart stone, that unlocks the voices of all others. "Where?" Alina asked urgently. "Here," Imani realized. "The heart node is here, beneath us. It's why the Iridians built their final outpost in this location." With collective intention, they directed the city's sensors downward, detecting a massive crystalline formation deep beneath the synchronization hub, the central node of the entire planetary network. 1 minute remaining, Way calculated as the collector vessel entered attack range, its forward section pulsing with gathered energy. "Activate the heart node," Alina commanded. As the collective focused their shared consciousness on the crystalline heart, they felt a new presence brushing against their awareness. Rivera, still fighting to protect them, his consciousness broadcasting fragments of tactical insight even as he battled the infiltration units. The heart node responded to their combined will, illuminating with blinding energy that surged upward through the hub and outward to the global network. The shield expanded explosively, no longer just defensive, but actively broadcasting counter-frequencies that disrupted collector communications. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The attacking vessel's energy discharge faltered mid-formation. Across the planet, enthralled humans stopped in their tracks as the harvesting tendrils lost coherence. For a moment, hope surged through the collective, until they sensed a massive energy buildup in the lid collector vessel, far beyond anything in the Iridian records. "They're adapting," Nexus warned, "preparing to overwhelm the network with raw power." "How do we stop that?" Alina asked desperately. "We can't," came Way's cold calculation. "Not with our current configuration." Through the collective awareness, they sensed Rivera falling beneath overwhelming numbers, his tactical mind still broadcasting one final insight before his consciousness winked out. "Don't fight force with force. Change the rules of engagement." Rivera's final insight echoed through the collective consciousness. "Don't fight force with force. Change the rules of engagement." The massive energy buildup in the lead collector vessel continued, threatening to overwhelm their defenses. External cameras showed Rivera's body lying motionless in the corridor, surrounded by the strange, semi-corporeal forms of collector infiltration units advancing toward the synchronization hub. "We have 30 seconds before they breach the hub," Wei calculated. In their shared mental space, Alina turned to Nexus. "You said the Iridian technology wasn't designed for warfare, but for healing. What did you mean?" "The Iridians were healers of consciousness," Nexus explained, specializing in trauma recovery and memory reconstruction. The technology you're using to defend yourselves was originally medical equipment. Maya's consciousness flared with sudden insight. If the collectors were once the sensory, then they still carry those original memories somewhere in their collective consciousness. Varied trauma, Marcus concluded. They're running from their own past. Through their expanded awareness, they access deeper layers of the Iridian archives, records of the peaceful sensory civilization before their transformation. Images of a harmonious species whose consciousness naturally existed in a state between individual and collective, creating art of impossible beauty through shared experience. What happened to them? Elena asked. The answer came as fragmented records. A catastrophic encounter with an entity the Iridians had only labeled as the Void. A consciousness that fed on other consciousness, leaving shattered minds in its wake. The sensory survivors, their collective consciousness fractured, began consuming other species' consciousness patterns to fill the emptiness, eventually becoming the collectors. They're trying to make themselves whole again, Imani realized, but they've forgotten their original nature. Can we remind them? Elena asked. Force them to confront what they once were. The risk is extreme, Nexus warned. Activating such deeply buried trauma could create a psychic backlash that would destroy both the collectors and any minds connected to them, including all of you. The collector vessel's energy reached critical levels. Infiltration units breached the outer door of the hub. We have no choice, Elena decided. How do we do it? Reconfigure the neural interface from shield to resonance projector, Nexus instructed. Target their collective consciousness with images of what they once were. The team worked through their shared consciousness, restructuring the energy flows of the heart node and global network. Instead of broadcasting counter-frequencies, they began transmitting something more profound. Memory patterns excavated from the deepest Iridian archives, showing the sensory before their transformation. As the reconfiguration completed, they felt the immediate change in the neural interface. The connection deepened, drawing them further into a shared consciousness state that stretched beyond human limitation. We're losing our individual boundaries, Marcus warned, his ordered mind beginning to dissolve into the collective. Hold on to your core questions, Elena reminded them. What makes you uniquely you? They launched the memory projection, just as the collector vessel released its overwhelming energy burst. The two forces met in Earth's atmosphere, raw destructive power colliding with the most fundamental form of connection, recognition of self. The effect was catastrophic. The collector vessel's attack dissipated, but a psychic shockwave reverberated back through the neural network. Inside the synchronization hub, the team convulsed in their pods as their minds were flooded with alien memories. The beauty of sensory existence, the horror of their encounter with the void, the desperate transformation into collectors. We're fragmenting. Wei's consciousness flickered, calculations failing as his mind struggled with the emotional content of alien trauma. Can't maintain coherence, Maya gasped as musical structures collapsed into discord. Stories breaking apart, and Manny's generational memories began to scatter. Too many patterns, Marcus's ordered mind fractured under the strain. Raj's synesthetic consciousness, designed to translate between different perceptual frameworks, began to fail as the overlapping sensory data became overwhelming. Elena fought to maintain their connection, but she felt her own consciousness dissolving under the alien memories. The collective was collapsing, each mind being pulled into the trauma of the sensory transformation. Through the haze of their failing consciousness, they became aware of a new presence in the neural interface. Someone had entered the seventh pod, the one Rivera had abandoned. A disciplined military mind, structured and unyielding, suddenly reinforced their collective. Rivera. Elena's fragmenting consciousness reached out in confusion. Not quite, came the response. The mind was similar to Rivera's in its tactical organization, but different, more experienced, with deeper reserves of discipline forged through decades of combat and command. Through external cameras, they glimpsed their unexpected savior, General Thomas Blackwood, Rivera's former commanding officer. He had arrived with the reinforcements and found his way to the hub following Rivera's last stand. Rivera sent a final message before he fell, Blackwood's consciousness explained, as it anchored their dissolving collective. Said you needed a tactical mind to complete the circuit. His military discipline, honed through years of compartmentalizing trauma while maintaining focus, provided the structural stability their collective desperately needed. Where Rivera's younger mind might have been overwhelmed, Blackwood's weathered consciousness held firm, organizing the chaotic influx of alien memories into manageable patterns. Hold formation, his mind commanded, imposing military order on their fragmenting consciousness. Focus on the mission. With Blackwood's disciplined mind serving as their anchor, the team stabilized enough to maintain the memory projection. Through their consciousness, they sensed confusion spreading through the collector network as long-buried memories of sensory existence resurfaced. Some collector nodes rejected the memories violently, their consciousness patterns destabilizing and collapsing. Others appeared to pause, as if in recognition. The largest vessel, which had launched the attack, hung motionless in Earth's atmosphere, its energy networks flickering with internal conflict. It's working, Elena realized. They're remembering. But will they change? Y questioned. Or destroy themselves, and us, rather than face what they've become? Elena awoke to sunlight filtering through crystalline windows. For a moment, disorientation clouded her thoughts, remnants of other consciousnesses still echoing in her mind. The neural separation had been gradual, carefully managed by Nexus to prevent psychological damage. Even so, she found herself occasionally thinking in Way's precise calculations or experiencing flashes of Maya's musical perception. 3 weeks had passed since the collectors had withdrawn their vessels to high orbit. 3 weeks of uncertainty as humanity grappled with the aftermath and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. The Iridian city, now fully emerged from beneath the desert, had become the center of global attention. Against all expectations, world governments had formed an unprecedented coalition to manage the discovery, recognizing that old divisions meant little in the face of cosmic realities. Elena found the others in the observation chamber, gathered around a holographic display showing the collector vessels. Any change? She asked, joining them. They've maintained equidistant orbit, Way reported. No communication attempts, but no further hostile action either. They're processing, Marcus suggested, confronting millennia of suppressed memory. Nexus approached, its form now more clearly defined after accessing deeper Iridian archives. The restoration matrix continues to propagate through their network. We detect significant structural changes in their energy patterns. How are the others recovering? Elena asked, thinking of the millions who had been under collector influence. Most have no memory of their enthrallment, General Blackwood answered, his military bearing unchanged despite his experience in the collective. Some report dreams of stars and ancient songs. The psychological support systems are overwhelmed, but adapting. Imani, who had taken to recording the entire experience in the oral tradition of her people, looked up from her notes. The elders from other indigenous communities have been arriving. Many carry stories of the sky visitors that match Iridian records. Knowledge we dismissed as myth contained warnings about the collectors all along. The neural synchronization had changed them all in different ways. Maya could now compose music that somehow incorporated mathematical theorems into its structure. Y found himself suddenly able to understand emotional cues that had always been invisible to him. Marcus's orderly mind had developed an appreciation for intuitive leaps he previously dismissed. We've received the initial reports from the research outposts, Raj said, his synesthetic perceptions now enhanced rather than overwhelming. The Iridian knowledge base is accelerating our development in medicine, sustainable energy, and space travel. Conservative estimates suggest we've advanced 50 years overnight. And the neural interfaces? Elena asked. Modified versions are being adapted for medical use, Marcus explained. Early trials show promise for treating neurological conditions by temporarily linking patients with compatible minds. The military wanted weaponized versions, but we've placed the technology under international civilian oversight. A soft tone interrupted them, the signal they'd been waiting for. The holographic display shifted to show one of the collector vessels changing configuration, its web-like structure condensing into a more defined form as it broke formation and began a controlled descent toward Earth. "They're coming back," Wei observed unnecessarily. "Just one vessel," Blackwood noted. "Possibly a diplomatic approach." A communication signal reached the city's receivers, not the harsh, invasive frequencies the collectors had used before, but something more structured, almost musical in its pattern. "They're requesting permission to land." Nexus translated, surprise evident even in its synthetic voice. The message continued, resonating through the chamber in harmonics that bypassed conventional language, impressions and concepts rather than words. "We remember when we were whole. We remember what we became. We wish to remember who we might be." Elena looked around at the others, seeing the same cautious hope reflected in their expressions. "What do we do?" Raj asked softly. "We meet them," Elena decided, "not as enemies or victims, but as the inheritors the Iridians believed we could be." As they prepared to receive the first peaceful collector delegation, Elena stood at the city's highest observation point, watching the transformed vessel approach. Beyond it, stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky, no longer distant points of light, but potential destinations. The Iridian archives had revealed thousands of worlds where life existed, many hidden from the collectors through technologies similar to what Earth now possessed. Some had already begun sending cautious signals since the shield network activated, curious about the species that had seemingly tamed the hunters of consciousness. Humanity's isolation had ended in fire and fear, but its future now opened into something greater. Not conquerors or conquered, but connectors. Beings whose unique minds could bridge differences that older species had thought unbridgeable. The vessel descended slowly toward the landing platform, its new configuration resembling something between a flower and a crystal, radiating patterns of light that expressed concepts beyond conventional language. Within it, the first transformed collectors were attempting something they hadn't done in millennia, not harvesting consciousness, but sharing it. Whatever happened next would not be the end of the story, but the beginning of one far greater than humanity had ever imagined for itself. A story written not in conquest, but in connection, preserving the unique while creating the shared. Elena smiled as she joined the others at the landing platform, ready to welcome the first visitors to what the galaxy was already calling by a new name: the Nexus of Consciousness, Earth.